Hello, welcome to our video about some general VS Code tips. We're going to be going over some productivity tips as well as things you might not know that you can do in VS Code. My name is Craig Holiday.
I'm Keith Holiday.
And let's jump into it. All right, so before we get started with any of this, let's talk about that this is all for Mac. So the keyboard shortcuts are going to be just a little bit different. So they'll either have using Control, and then they might be missing some keys, and we'll have something for specifically Windows coming soon, as well as those translations. And we'll link to the blog post that has all these commands in the description. So go check that out if any of this looks weird. So the first tip is the code CLI. So VS Code comes with a CLI that you can install, which basically just gives you the keyword code. And then you can open a folder, a file, anything like that. You can also create a file if you wanted to. But right now, let's just go ahead and open our project. And this is a project that we did in another video, if you want to go check that out.
And that code command, that's installed by default when you install VS Code, yeah?
No, it's not actually. So the way to install that is to bring up the command palette. We'll get to that in a second. And then you're going to type in shell command install code command in path. Once again, don't know if that works in Windows as well as it works in Mac. In Mac, you just run this. It'll go ahead and install it for you, and you can start using it in your terminal after you've restarted it.
I think Windows doesn't install it automatically, but I don't remember.
Not sure either, but
check it out.
We'll check that out, and if there's any other anything else we have to do in there, we'll let you know. All right, so the next tip that you are actually probably seeing right here at the bottom is the integrated terminal. So let's clean this up real quick. So down here at the bottom, we have a terminal. You can either get this by opening the bottom panel, or you can just go to View and then Terminal, and that'll open up the terminal. And then you can run your npm commands. You can add files, remove anything that you want to do in a terminal, you can do it right here. All right, so our next tip is refactoring with the rename symbol. So say you have a JavaScript file open, you want to change a function name, a name of variable, anything like that. You can go in and just change it to whatever minute format if you wanted to change each one, and then you can go in here and you can change everyone by just copying and pasting. You can also select next occurrence. There's plenty of things that we'll get into here in a second. But if you have a symbol here, you can rename it across the board by either pressing F2 on your keyboard, or you can assign it to another shortcut. And all that does is bring up this little rename symbol right here, and you can change it like that. And there you go. Now this variable is changed everywhere in this file. And then there is language support for something like TypeScript to change it across files. Okay, so our next tip is the multi-selections or multi-cursors. There's plenty of names for this. This is the ability to add multiple cursors. So, just one selection, that's one cursor. If you Alt-click, you can add multiple cursors on any of these lines, and you can control them individually. You can also do Alt-click up and down, or I'm sorry. You can Command Alt-click up and down. That'll add them as well. And if you want to select all occurrences of something or all occurrences of a selection, you can do Shift Command L, and that'll get all of the occurrences in this file of your selection. So if I double click on linear here, Shift Command L, that'll select all the linear. And then I can change values in here. All of these cursors act individually. So also have to be careful of where you place it. So if I add multiple cursors on one line, you might get not exactly what you want there. And this is a very quick way to change any values. Like say you have something in CSS and you want to change this 200 milliseconds across the board. The last way you can do that is if you don't want to select all occurrences, say I only want these top 3 values, I can do Command D, and then that'll select the next occurrence. individually, and I can just do just those top 3. And I can move it down, and I can just do those bottom 3 if I wanted to. All right, so our next tip here is the command palette. You've probably used this a lot. We actually just used it to install the Code CLI. The way to get this is just Shift-Command-P, and it's actually this view right here. Anything that happens in this view is the command palette. So if you want to run a command, it's Shift-Command-P, and if it has a caret, these are commands that'll run. You can also do some quick commands. You can do Command P, which is going to let you navigate to any file. So these are all the files in our project right now. You can do Control Tab to switch between files that are open. So if we go ahead and open main CSS, Control Tab, it'll let us flip between the most recently opened or all the opened ones. We can do like Shift-Command-P, and these will perform commands that are inside VS Code or that have been added by an extension. So a good one is keyboard shortcuts. If you want to come in here, change any keyboard shortcuts, there's also a JSON file if you'd like to change that as well. One of the other ones that we can talk about is we talk about symbols, and this is just anything in your project. So if we do Shift-Command-O, we can go to a symbol, and each one of these are symbols. So variable, functions, everything like that, we can jump directly to it immediately by just doing Shift-Command-O. Okay, so the last little command that we'll run here is if you want to go to a line in a big file, you know exactly what line that you're going to go to, just do Control-G and then type the line. Let's do just 56. And there we go. I'm right on that line and I can just get started. And if you want to, and you don't want to remember all of those shortcuts, you can always just do Command P, and then you can enter in any of the characters that are for these commands. So for running a command, it's the caret. For searching or for going to the line, it's the colon. And so on. You can just, it's very dynamic. You can just pull up the command palette and do anything in here and go to any of those shortcuts. All right, so now let's quickly go over some of the panels that we have in VS Code and how we can navigate through them. So starting on the very left here, this is our activity bar. So everything in here is our activity bar, all the way down to profile and settings. This next part is our sidebar. This is where our project files are held or NPM scripts. There's plenty of things that we can have in here. Everything inside this space where our code goes are called editor groups. So they're called groups because you can do multiple split tabs if you want to. Anything tabs in here, that's our editor group. Down here at the bottom, very bottom, you can see is our status bar. Now this will give you anything to do with if your ESLint is running, the size of your files, what branch you're on. And then the last one is here is the panel. So this is just called the panel. It has everything from your terminal to your debug console. And you can use your integrated terminal here. Also has problems for ESLint and output for when you're debugging. All the good stuff in here.
Problems does it for many things, not just ESLint too.
All right, so let's look at how to navigate these with our keyboard, because we can be clicking around here, but we want to be a little bit more productive. And if we remember these shortcut keys, we can kind of get around here a lot quicker. So the first one is, if I click off of it, is Shift-Command-E. Now that goes to our Explorer. These are all the side panels. So Shift-Command-F is going to go through search. Shift-Control-G is going to go to our source control. Command-Shift-D is the run panel. So this is where you would do debugging. And then Shift-Command-X is our extensions. So that's a real quick way to go through all of our activity bar items. Now for our sidebar here, if we wanted to hide this, if we just wanted to see our code, we can just do Command-B and that'll hide it. All right, and if you want to hide your tabs up here, say you've got a bunch of tabs and you want to, you just want to look at just one thing that you're looking at and not get overwhelmed, you can just do Control-Command-W and that'll hide your tabs and only show what you're on right now. Okay, now if we want to show the panel at the bottom that we just looked at, we can do Command-J and that'll show and hide our panel. And you can just sort through those like that. And that is just Command J. All right, so now we're gonna go rapid fire through some just general keyboard shortcuts that are not related to anything we've covered so far, and some editing shortcuts that will help you out when you're actually coding. So the first one is a toggle word wrap. So you're not gonna use this all that often, but say you have something that is very long. I just copied this a bunch of times. And say you have a very long CSV, anything like that, you can do Alt-Z, and that'll wrap it for your editor as the size it is right now. Just a little helpful if you're going through a bunch of things and you want to see everything in the file without having to open your editor up.
Very helpful if you're working with other coders that like to do long one-liners.
Yes, definitely. And so it's very helpful to see everything for these very long one-liners, or for even somebody with a bigger screen than you. Now here's a pretty simple one that you've probably seen before. It's just Command F. You find this everywhere. Command F is search. You can also come in here. You have replace. You also can do regex inside this. Very useful tool. I only bring it up because I see some people not using it. Now here's a very simple one. If you're just going through traversing code is very important. If you wanted to select something with just the word, you can do Shift Alt and then left and right. Now that's going to select items by word in your code. So if I wanted to go over style sheet, I wanted to change this to something else, or more likely is I wanted to change main to something like style sheet, just Shift Alt is just going to select that word, and that's how you can navigate through your code a little bit faster. We did cover this one a little earlier, but once again, Command D is going to select all of the next occurrence of whatever item. So say we had a bunch of buttons here, we want to change them to a div and add a class. But you do see that it's going to select all the next occurrences. So even if we have a div at the front here, it will catch something like the div at the end. So just be cautious with what you're grabbing there. You can do any selection. So if we do the caret at the front here and go down, then we can change this to a button, a div, anything we want to there. Real simple one here, just Command up and down. If you need to go through a long file, anything like that, let's open up our dist. Say you want to go to the beginning and end, just Command up and down. Easy way to get to the end or the beginning of a file. Command left and right, that's going to get you to the beginning and end of a line. So say we wanted to select everything in this line, we can just do Command left or right, get to the end of it, and then select the entire line if we wanted to do something like that, or just get back here and do Shift Alt left and right to get something at the end. Okay, now say we're going through some different files, or even selecting something and going to the symbol in another file, anything along those lines, we can quickly go back or forward in our navigation by just doing Control and then the minus key to go back, or Control Shift and the minus key to go forward. So very easy way to do through selections, through files, anything like that. It's just Control minus and Control Shift minus. Another shortcut that you'll use every day is the jump to definition. There's two ways you can use this. You could do Command click, and then that'll bring up this little window, and you can go to every reference of something like the function day.js. Or if you don't want to get off your keyboard, you can just do just do F12, and that'll bring it up, and then you can navigate this window with your keys, and then just press enter to go to that definition. Okay, so now this is another fun one, and this is expanding or shrinking your selection inside a block. So say I have this H1 tag in this div. If I do Shift, Control, Command, and then the left and right arrow keys, left is to shrink, right is to expand. So say I want everything inside this div, this with a container, with an ID of container, I can just do Shift, Control, Command, right, and that'll get me the block. And I can shrink it all the way down to any block. So this is in this H1, inside the H1, hello from HTML is inside a block. If I do expand again, H1, is a block. If I expand one more time, or two more times, it's inside this div. And that is Shift, Control, Command, left and right arrow keys. Okay, so we got a few more. These are all about editing. So you're gonna be using these all the time, and you might be using them already. So if you do Command X, we all know that that's cut. In VS Code and some other IDEs, if you do it on a line, it'll cut the entire line. So you can do Command X, and then you can put that line wherever you want.
And that's because you have no selection.
Correct. So if I don't have a selection in the middle of the line, it'll still cut the entire line.
Right.
Now, say you don't want to cut the line, you don't want it in your clipboard or anything like that. You can just do Shift Command and then K, and that'll just delete the line instead of cutting it and then having it in your clipboard. Okay, so we've only got two more. This second to last one is moving lines. So say I want this H1 to be right next to this other H1 in my div with an ID of container 1. If I do Alt up, it's going to just move the line into up a line. And when I do the down arrow key, that's down a line. And that is with multiple selections too. So say I want this entire div to go up into the next, next line, or if I want it above this other div, any selection you can do up and down like this. And then it's just Alt, up, and down arrow keys. All right, last one. Don't see a lot of people using this, but it is a good one. So if you say, I'm in here and I want a bunch of H1s, or if I have a bunch of list items, I want to copy the line continuously down. Now, all you got to do that is Shift Alt down or Shift Alt up. So down will add the line underneath the current line, and up will add it above the current line. And you can do this as well with an entire selection, or you can just do it with one line. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching this VS Code general tips. If you have some tips or some comments and questions, let us know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel. We've got some more videos coming about VS Code, and we'll see you next time.